This video has been automatically generated from an article written by Martin Freiland. That's me on martinfreiland.com. It revolves around Minneapolis and Minnesota, Canada, Germany, the Council of Peace, the WEF 2026 meeting in Davos, but also around the Ukrainian drone attack on Putin's country residence. And it is all part of the same theater of the so-called deep state against Team Trump, which has long been predicted here to lead to a conflict that will culminate in a staged Brutus assassination attempt on Caesar Donald Trump, and a deep state that will try to eliminate Team Trump. First, we had the well-known controlled opposition analyst Scott Ritter, who yesterday in a podcast reported that he had come to the conclusion that it must have been the CIA orchestrating the Ukrainian attack with 91 drones on Vladimir Putin's country residence around January 9, 2026, because otherwise it would have been technically unfeasible. What you only hear from me is that it is all part of the theater, orchestrated by the real deep state, staging that battle between the so-called deep state, the bad guys in the script, and Team Trump, the good guys in the script. In addition, we also had the images of the controlled opposition, who always put on their familiar camera shows of strolls in Davos, where they are allowed to bother important pawns in the script with supposedly annoying questions. It is always the same little play. The important player in the script takes a walk with bodyguards and is supposedly interrogated by cunning journalists from the alternative media, thus capturing the critical mass in the net of that sham opposition. It is all part of the theater. This time it was Larry Fink from BlackRock, who, since August 2025, naturally plays the role of interim co-chair, deputy of Klaus Schwab from the World Economic Forum. Those who paid attention could have noticed that Team Trump actually ruled at the WEF meeting in Davos this year. It went so far that male-turned-female Chris Lagarde walked out of a meeting and a booing Al Gore during a speech by Howard Lutnick, Trump's Minister of Trade. Here, too, we saw once again the battle between Team Trump, the good guys, and the left-wing so-called deep state, the bad guys. You are the spectator who must believe that it is all spontaneous and authentic. I tell you that it is all part of the theater that must put that battle between the good guys and the bad guys in the minds of the masses. In a previous article, I mentioned Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney boasting about independence from the hegemon and his talks with China. I also mentioned German Chancellor Merz doing something similar but talking about India. And both countries, and all other European deep state countries, did not participate in Trump's Council of Peace. So the battle between the so-called deep state and Team Trump is also being highlighted there. You can see this if you are the observant spectator who is able to see through all the staged acting. And of course, that is why yesterday Trump threatened with 100% tariffs on Canada. Minneapolis and Minnesota have meanwhile become film sets for the well-known shooting hoaxes, in which Trump's immigration service, ICE, is said to have acted too harshly. I could then tell you all sorts of details about who would have been shot dead and how it all unfolds, but then you might believe that it really happened. These kinds of hoaxes are just as much part of the theater. It is also intended to further intensify the tension between the so-called left-wing deep state, the bad guys, and Team Trump, the good guys, with lawsuits, and even the Senate wanting the funding of the Department of Homeland Security to be removed from another such law linked to raising the debt ceiling. You know, that ritual that we have almost every month by now, after which the last time there was a government shutdown because the Democrats refused to vote in favor. It is all as transparent as can be, because even the plague is transparent once you realize that viruses do not exist. And all of this is supposed to lead to the long-predicted final battle. The deep state will try to stab Caesar in the back through a Brutus. It remains to be seen who will play that Brutus role, but it is undoubtedly coming. Will it be Elon Musk or a less prominent name? And then we will have the escalating civil war, the U.S. withdrawal from NATO, the fall of the dollar and the rise of Bitcoin, the fall of Europe through chaos resembling civil war, and as the final convulsion of the so-called deep state, the alien invasion hoax. It is all orchestrated by the real deep state that coordinates the entire game in a script that is supposed to lead to the launch of Trump as the Messiah resurrected from the hoaxed death. Okay, that's it again. Share and like this video, and until next time.